In this lesson, we're going to animate our text, and we can grab some dummy text. There's a generator here. You can generate as many paragraphs as you want, and I'll just copy this. Now let's grab the text tool and sort of draw out where we want our text to go. So I kind of want it to be about this, so we have a little bit of margin left and right, and then let's paste in our text. Okay, it's a little bit small right now. Let's try size 20. Size of 30 seems quite appropriate. And what we want to do here is have this text come up from the Z space. And we can sort of create that illusion by having it come from the bottom and then pushing it back in Z in this comp. So, and come down to text, animate position. And we want to enable per character 3D, and this allows us to move it in Z. Let's push this back, say 800 on Z and maybe 500 in the Y. And what we can do now is keyframe the range selector. So currently start is 0 and end is 100. What I'm going to do is go into advanced and change this to ramp up, ease the low 100%. And so that will create a very smooth looking result, similar to ease and whiz, except now because we have a range selector, we can animate this in a more pleasing way, which is sort of by characters, which it's based off of. So because we're using the ramp up, we actually, instead of using start and end, we use offset, and you start at -100 and then go all the way up to 100. So if we have a preview of this, we will see the characters flying up one at a time. Or maybe not one at a time because we have so many characters. Now we're getting so many lines of text coming up at the same time just because of how many characters we have. So I'm going to just try and remove any characters that we don't need. So if we come to when we're at the very end and maybe view this in the main comp, we'll see that we probably don't need all of these letters. So we really only needed the first 2 and a bit paragraphs. So I'm going to go to here and remove the 3rd paragraph. Okay, so here's how that looks. I think what we need to do is maybe add in a page behind the text because it looks a little bare. I also want to scale it down a little bit. So let's begin by adding in the page. And what we want is just a shape layer. So if you create or click on the create rectangle and then don't have any layer selected, you can create a shape. And let's just go to, I've just split the text up into 2 separate ones just because I think it's a bit laggy having that. Oh, it's very laggy anyway, but hopefully it's a little bit quicker this way. But what we want is to draw out a rectangle that's the width of the digital tutors, the Google Docs interface, so something about this big, and we want the fill to be white and the stroke to also be white. And maybe let's turn the opacity down to 20%, maybe 2%. When working linearly, even very small amounts of opacity show up quite a bit more than when working in sRGB. And what we also want to do is just duplicate this and have this one with no fill. So if you click on the fill here, we can set it to non-existent, and then this way we can have this as the stroke only. So boost the opacity to maybe 50. And there we have it. Let's just check it in the main comp. That looks good. I might just move both of those down a little bit, so we have a bit of a break between the interface and the text. Now, because the text is so laggy, we're going to animate it by creating a solid and animating that solid, and then we'll just parent the text to that solid. So here we have a solid 500 wide, 2000 high. Let's just create that and then solo that, and this will be our animation. And I'm just going to add a grid effect to this just so that it's a bit easier to see exactly what's happening. There's grid, and make it quite large. And what we want to do is, when we have the 5th click, we want to position this, and I'm not sure exactly how long, but maybe until the end of the clip, it shall swing down. And let's go to Ease and Whiz, and let's use under Expo, under this menu, it's actually cut off on the screen. I'll try and bring it up. We have Elastic, which is a cool effect, and that's elastic in and out. And I'll just move this a bit further along. So let's preview what we have here. Now that's very shaky. What we can do is separate X and Y by going to the graph view and then separating these parameters, and just removing any keyframes from X because we only want this to happen on Y. Okay, it's a little difficult to see on a grid. Let's just add in some fractal noise just so that we can see a pattern as opposed to this grid. And I'll just turn up the contrast to see that a bit better. And let's preview our animation. Okay, this is still looking very odd, so let's select the keyframe and choose just the elastic on the out. And that's what we want. So that might be a little bit too much bounce. Let's just bring these keyframes in a bit. Let's see how all that looks in the main comp. So it starts way too quick. And let's, even though that's exactly when the character presses onto the interface, because it's a dragging movement, I don't think the movement should start until a little bit later. Okay, that was too late. Quite a bit too late. Let's go about half and half. It's a little difficult to see because this is too bright. We can't really see what the hand is doing. I think it's a little bit slow. Maybe 2 keyframes behind where it needs to be. Oh, that looks like it was a bit fast, so let's go 1. Every keyframe counts when you're doing animation like this. And let's turn on motion blur to see if that looks correct. That does look good. Okay, so now what we need to do is grab some additional text because our text does not consist of enough. So if we turn this off and then turn on our text layer, turn this back on, and what we'll need to do is add some additional text in and then parent this to our animation. So let's parent this to the white solid, which is turned off, which is what we want. And let's create a matte for this because what we want is when this text is scrolling, we don't want to see it at certain times. So if we could actually use the matte of the page. And one of these shape layers is the page, so we'll turn both of these on. I think the bottom one is the page, and just duplicate that. And it's very laggy just because of the text. But if we turn this opacity up to 100, then alpha matte the text to that, we'll now have a good matte for it. And then let's duplicate these two, and then let's bring this text up. And this is basically what we want. We just want this large block of text at the very top. So with that done, now we can preview this and see what it looks like. And here we have it. So this is looking very nice. We're pretty much finished the motion design. What we just need to do in the next lesson is prepare this for export to NUKE.